Hare Krishna. Welcome to Tax Guru YouTube channel. This is CA Rohan R. Pingre, practicing chartered accountant based in Mumbai, also partner in Motilal and Associates LLP, member firm of Marks Network. Welcome to video series GST Relearn. And today is a part 24. And that is also, we are ending this video series today. So today's topic, after that this video series will be end up, but all the videos in the video series will be available on Tax Guru YouTube channel. So if you are watching this first time, then do access it from video 1. Okay, that is a part 1, part 2 till part 24. So let's start with today's topic. We are going to discuss today miscellaneous provisions under GST. Yes, so let me allow to share my screen. Miscellaneous provisions under GST. Let's see what we are going to learn today under this topic. Power to call for information, power to collect statistics, disclosure of information, appearance by authorized representative, assessment special situations, recovery of tax dues, liability in special cases, offences and penalties overview, compounding of offences, cognizance and prosecution, liability of officers and bar of jurisdiction, protection of action taken in good faith, power to make rules, power to issue instructions, circulars, power to remove difficulties, transitional and residual provisions, general clauses applicable to GST, and at the end, we will see key learnings and conclusions from today's learning. So let's start. First, power to call for information. GST authorities are empowered to call for information, okay, from any person, register or otherwise, to verify what compliance, detect evasion, or for policy formulation also. Means there are three things they are considered when they can call for information: to verify the compliance, detect evasion, and or for policy formulation too. So scope is information relating to transaction based information they can call it for. Details from banks, financial institutions, transporters, e-commerce operators may include documents, returns, statements, or electronic records. Okay. Let's understand from practical example. A transporter is asked to furnish vehicle movement data to verify whether goods moved without valid e-way bills or not. So key principle is what? Power is investigative and not punitive by itself. It is investigative power. Okay. Information sought must have nexus with GST administration. So that is all about power to call for information. Next, power to collect statistics. Government may collect statistics relating to GST for what? Economic analysis, revenue planning, and policy decisions. For these various reasons, government has a power, may they can collect statistics relating to GST. Practical example, data on sector-wise turnover growth is collected to rationalize the GST rates. So safeguard is confidentiality of individual taxpayer data must be maintained. We need to maintain proper data. Data is for macro level analysis, not routine assessment. Next, disclosure of information. Information furnished by whom taxpayer is confidential but can be disclosed to other government authorities for prosecution under GST or allied laws as per law for public interest. Means information definitely of taxpayer is confidential, but it can be disclosed to other government authorities for prosecutions under GST or allied laws and as per law for public interest. So practical example, GST data shared with income tax authorities during the investigation of tax evasion. Okay, it's now we are taking also practical example to get the better understanding of the provisions. So judicial principle is disclosure must be authorized by law. Arbitrary disclosure violates the taxpayer rights. Means disclosure, whatever it may be, should be authorized by law. Arbitrary disclosure violates what? Taxpayer rights. Next, appearance by authorized representative. Who can represent? Okay, a chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary, advocate, and also authorized employee or relative can be a representative, authorized representative. So a CA represents a taxpayer during GST audit or adjudication proceedings. So key limitation: representation allowed except during examination on oath where personal appearance may be required. Next, assessment in special situations. Let's understand types of assessments. Provisional assessment, best judgment assessment, assessment of unregistered persons is also there, and assessment of non-filers. Okay, these are the types of assessments: provisional, best judgment, assessment of unregistered person, and assessment of non-filers. So, practical example, a person supplies taxable services without registration. So, officer assess tax liability based on what? Available data. So, principle is assessment is not arbitrary. It must be based on the material evidence. Next, recovery of tax dues. What are the modes of recovery? Deduction from refunds, attachment of bank accounts, sale of movable or immovable property, and recovery from third parties. So these are the recoveries way available to the department or government. We can say the deduction from refunds, attachment of bank accounts, sale of movable or immovable property, and recovery from third parties. So let's understand from the practical example. GST department recovers unpaid tax by attaching what? Debtor payments due to taxpayer. So it can be recovered from like that third party. Judicial principle: recovery cannot precede the adjudication unless expressly permitted by law. The recovery cannot precede adjudication. Means first adjudication needs to be done and thereafter it can be start the recovery process unless expressly permitted by law. Let's understand liability in special cases. What are the situations? Transfer of business, amalgamation or merger, death of proprietor, partition of HUF, company liquidation. So these are the scenarios, these are the situations where the liability arises to whom, with whom. Okay. So practical example, when a business is sold, both transferor and transferee may jointly liable for unpaid GST. So from that, this example, you have a better understanding. Okay. Like business is sold, that is like a transfer of business, both transferor and transferee jointly liable for unpaid GST. So key principle is tax liability follows the business, not merely the person. Next, offenses and penalties overview. Let's understand nature of offenses. What are the offenses? Suppression of facts, fake invoicing, very much there, availment of ineligible ITC, non-payment of tax. So these are the offenses. So penalty philosophy is what? Civil liability, not a criminal in all cases. There are exceptions. Proportional to gravity of offenses. So practical example, wrong ITC claimed without fraud, lower penalty, okay? And fake invoice racket, severe penalty plus prosecution also there. So the offenses, suppression of facts, fake invoicing, availment of ineligible ITC, non-payment. So the penalty philosophy is a civil liability and not criminal in all cases. Next, compounding of offenses. Let's understand the concept. Compounding allows what? Settlement of offenses by payment of compounding amount. We can say it as a compounding fee also. Avoiding what? Prosecution. It to avoid the prosecution, it whatever is offense, it can be settled by paying some compounding fee. So conditions: available only for specified offenses and not available for habitual offenders. Okay, not available for habitual offenders. Practical example, a taxpayer opts to compound offense of delayed tax payment to avoid criminal proceedings. So that is the concept of compounding of offenses. Next, Cognizance and prosecution. What are the key aspects? Prosecution launched only with sanction of competent authority. Means whenever prosecution need to launch, it should be sanctioned by competent authority only. Cognizable and non-liable offenses are limited to serious frauds. So what is the judicial principle is that prosecution is a last resort, not a routine recovery tool. Means it can be only at the end, means other, means if it is not workable, then only prosecution will be come into the play. So prosecution is a last resort and not a routine recovery tool. Next, liability of officers and bar of jurisdiction. Bar of Civil Courts. Civil courts cannot entertain matters assigned to GST authorities. What? Civil courts cannot entertain matters assigned to GST authorities. Protection to the officers. Officers protected for acts done in official capacity. Next, protection of action taken in good faith. So no suit or prosecution against officer for actions taken in good faith under GST law. So practical example, an officer issuing notice based on prevailing interpretation is protected even if interpretation later changes. So it is for protection for action taken in good faith by the officers of the department. Power to make rules. Let's understand. Government empowered to frame rules for procedures, forms, compliance mechanism. So principle is rules cannot override the act, only supplement it. Very, very important to understand the thing. Rules cannot override the act. It only supplement to the act. And government is empowered to frame rules related to procedures, forms, and compliance mechanisms. Power to issue instructions or circulars. What is the purpose behind is that? To ensure uniform implementation, clarify doubts, and avoid litigation. So instructions and circulars are issued for what? Ensure uniform implementation, clarity of doubts, and to avoid the future litigations. Binding nature, binding on department only. It is not binding on the taxpayer. Be please note down it. Not binding on taxpayer or courts. Okay, that is the case. Means instructions or circulars are mostly for internal purpose. Okay, it is binding only on the department but not binding on the taxpayer or the courts. Power to remove difficulties. Government may issue orders. Government may issue orders to remove what? Implementation difficulties. So within specified time, that is need to be in specified time and cannot amend substantive law. So clarification issued to address transition issues faced by taxpayers. So whenever there is a implementation difficulty after enacting any provisions or whatever rules or something like that, government can issue orders to remove that implementation difficulties, but that is also should be within specified time and cannot amend substantive law. Let's understand transitional and residual provisions. What it covers: legacy disputes, migration issues, carry forward of credits. So very important in case of transitional, that is a carry forward of credits from one to other. So principle is GST aims for smooth transition, not taxpayer hardship. General clauses applicable to GST includes time computation, service of notices, rounding of tax, and rectification of errors. And now we are moving to the conclusion and key learnings from today's takeaways. And from that, this is the end of the GST Relearn series. Okay, so let's see the key takeaways from today's learning. Miscellaneous provisions acts as the backbone of the GST administration. Very true. They balance what? Revenue protection and taxpayer safeguards. Powers given to authorities are not unaffected. They are guided by law and principles of natural justice. Emphasis on what? Compliance and not punishment. Okay. Procedural fairness is central to the GST framework. Understanding these provisions helps what? To prevent litigation and compliance errors. So mastery of miscellaneous provisions transforms a GST learner into a complete GST professional, as these provisions govern the real life enforcement, compliance and dispute resolution. And that is same thing I can say that if you learn from this GST Relearn video series, that is from part 1 to part 24, you will be able to go into the market with a good amount of knowledge. So go and study all parts from part 1 to part 24 of GST Relearn. It's very, very important. It's definitely it's like a basic type of things, means covering various provisions with a small guidelines and small provisions, like simple and very understandable language. So go learn it and also spread this to in your network, those who are a basic who want to basic learning. Okay, so you can share with them to provide them a good knowledge of basic to prepare for any office difficulties or for also interview. They can prepare from this. So go and learn it. Okay, so that's it for today, and we will, means I am starting a new video series on concurrent audit of bank branches from this month onwards. So stay tuned for that with the Tax YouTube channel for latest updates and video series and videos like this. Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you. Thank you so much for patient hearing. Bye bye. Take care. See you soon. Hare Krishna.